The slap echoed through St. Nicholas Hospital like a thunderclap in a silent church, and every head in the waiting room snapped toward the sound. Mothers clutching babies froze mid-bounce. Nurses dropped clipboards. Even the security guard's hand moved instinctively toward his belt. No one moved. No one breathed. They just stared as Damilola Adeleke, 6 months pregnant with her wrapper soaked in blood, crumbled to her knees on the cold marble floor, one hand pressed against her burning cheek, the other wrapped protectively around her swollen belly, while silent tears carved rivers through her makeup. Segun Adeleke stood over his wife like a king who'd just disciplined a disobedient servant. Shoulders back, chin high, expensive navy blue agbada flowing around him like a cape of entitlement. He was devastatingly handsome in that dangerous way that made women ignore red flags. Sharp cheekbones that could cut glass, a smile that promised the world before snatching it back, and eyes that sparkled with manufactured charm until you disappointed him. "See this foolish woman, oh," he hissed in Yoruba, his voice rising to ensure every eavesdropper caught the performance. "Every week na hospital drama, every single week na money, money, money. You think say I be first bank? You think say money they grow for tree?" His designer shoes, Italian leather worth more than most people's monthly salary, tapped impatiently as nurses exchanged horrified glances, but remained frozen, trapped between intervention and self-preservation. What Segun didn't know, what his pride and rage blinded him from seeing, was that someone was watching from the tinted executive windows 5 floors above. Someone whose own wife had died on a hospital floor exactly like this one, bleeding and begging, while bureaucrats shuffled papers and doctors waited for payment approvals that arrived 15 minutes too late to save her. Chief Olumide Adeleke, owner of Nigeria's largest private hospital chain, stood at that window with hands trembling in barely controlled fury, and in that single moment of witness cruelty, he made a decision that would shatter Segun's world into pieces too small to ever reassemble. Some slaps echo farther than the man who throws them could ever imagine. Chief Olumide Adeleke was 62 years old with silver-gray locks pulled back in a dignified ponytail, a face carved by equal parts grief and determination, and eyes that had seen too much suffering to ever look away from it again. His Italian 3-piece suit cost more than luxury cars. His Swiss watch could buy a house in Lekki. But his grandmother's Yoruba proverbs still governed his heart. Oko toin lu ayato loyun, njo lori iboji ara re. The man who beats his pregnant wife dances on his own grave. He'd built St. Nicholas Hospital from nothing after his wife Falak bled to death in his arms 20 years ago, transforming his guilt and rage into Nigeria's premier maternal healthcare system, brick by painful brick. His finger stabbed the intercom button with the force of a judge's gavel. "Security, Kunle Bayo, stop that man in the blue agbada immediately. The pregnant woman, bring her to VIP Wing 3, my personal suite. I don't care if he threatens lawyers, presidents, or Jesus Christ himself. If he resists, restrain him and call Ponte Police Station. Tell them Chief Adeleke sent you." His voice carried the quiet authority of a man who'd learned that real power whispers while weakness shouts. His assistant Ngozi burst through the door, her round face creased with concern, tablet already open to hospital security feeds. "Sir, the woman is bleeding heavily. Should I alert Dr. Amina?" Chief Adeleke's jaw tightened until the muscles jumped. "Alert everyone. Full obstetric team. Spare nothing. And Ngozi," his voice dropped to something almost vulnerable, "call my daughter. Tell her I might be late for dinner. Tell her it's because of Folek." Within 7 minutes, Chief Adeleke had counted every single one. Damilola was surrounded by Nigeria's best obstetricians, while Segun's shouts echoed through the marble lobby like a madman's sermon, demanding his property back, invoking connections to commissioners and senators he'd met once at weddings, threatening lawsuits that would never materialize beyond his wounded pride. But Chief Adeleke wielded the kind of power that made hospital administrators snap to attention, like soldiers, and security guards develop sudden hearing loss to a bully's threats. As Dr. Amina Hassan's preliminary examination revealed months of deliberate medical neglect, severe anemia, malnutrition, placental abruption, and the telltale finger-shaped bruises of repeated strangulation attempts, Chief Adeleke made a decision that transcended simple medical intervention. Some rescues require complete transformation. Some women need to be shown they deserve better before they can believe it. Dr. Amina Hassan emerged from the examination room 26 minutes later, looking like someone who'd just witnessed a crime scene disguised as a marriage. She was petite and fierce, her turquoise hijab always perfectly pinned despite 16-hour shifts, with eyes that missed absolutely nothing after 15 years of delivering Lagos babies and reading stories written in bruises, malnutrition, and the particular silence of abused women. She closed the door with deliberate gentleness before turning to Chief Adeleke with an expression that mixed professional composure with barely restrained fury. "Chief, this woman hasn't received proper prenatal care in over 4 months, maybe longer. Severe anemia, acute malnutrition, signs of placental abruption that could trigger complete separation and kill both mother and baby within days, maybe hours if we're unlucky." Chief Adeleke felt that old familiar rage rising from the place where Folek's memory lived. The kind of anger that had consumed him when doctors told him his wife's death was completely preventable if only someone had paid attention sooner. If only someone had prioritized her life over payment protocols. If only the world valued women's lives with the same urgency it valued men's convenience. His hands gripped the edge of Ngozi's desk until his knuckles went pale. "How bad, Amina? Give me worst case." Dr. Amina didn't believe in sugarcoating tragedy. Her job had taught her that false hope killed more effectively than honest fear. Without immediate intervention, 70% chance of fetal death within the week, 40% chance she hemorrhages during delivery, and we lose her too. And Chief, she hesitated, professional distance cracking slightly. The bruising pattern on her neck, arms, and ribs. The way she flinches when anyone moves too quickly. The way she apologized 17 times during examination for wasting our time. This isn't just medical negligence. Inside VIP Suite 3, Damilola lay cocooned in hospital. Sheets that smelled like lavender and safety. Scents so foreign to her recent life they almost hurt. At 28 years old, she'd once been a secondary school English teacher with dreams bigger than Lagos gridlock. Her own private school someday. Maybe publish children's books, possibly even study abroad in London, like her favorite aunt. Then Segun had appeared at her cousin Bucky's wedding, all charm and grand promises, swept her into a whirlwind courtship that felt like a Nollywood romance until the credits rolled and real life started. Slowly, so gradually she hadn't noticed until too late, her world had shrunk from dreams and possibilities to the exact dimensions of his moods, his demands, his violence disguised as discipline. Now surrounded by strangers showing her more gentleness in 2 hours than her husband had managed in 2 years, she finally let herself whisper the question that terrified her more than his fists. What if I never go back? What if I choose myself? Segun paced the hospital parking lot like a caged leopard. Phone pressed so hard against his ear, it left red marks, calling every single person who might leverage him back inside that building and back into control. His boys from Sterling Bank, where he worked as a relationship manager. His uncle who claimed to know the current commissioner for health. His pastor who preached wifely submission every single Sunday, while his own wife ran their household like a CEO. But nobody was answering. Or worse, they were answering and then making excuses faster than a Lagos hustler spotting LASMA officials. Word traveled fast in VI. The man who publicly beat his pregnant wife at St. Nicholas Hospital. Nobody wanted association with that particular scandal. "Guy, you donde craze?" His closest friend Tunde finally picked up, voice rough with judgment and disbelief. "You slap your bellwoman for hospital? For public hospital? Where them born Youssef under Transformer? Even Agbero for, oh, Shodi get more sense." Segun's defensiveness erupted like Echo Bridge traffic rage. "Tunde, you don't understand. That woman done change finish since this pregnancy. Always crying for no reason, always needing something. Hospital today, hospital tomorrow. My salary just they disappear into baby things we never even use. I'm not wicked. I just need her to stop being so bloody dramatic." The silence that followed was louder than any insult before Tunda's voice came back ice cold. You know what's dramatic? Beating your pregnant wife until she bleeds? My wife just told me if I ever try that nonsense, she'll pour boiling water on me while I sleep. And honestly, I deserve it. The line went dead. Inside the hospital, Chief Adeleke sat across from Damilola in the cushioned visitor's chair, his body language deliberately non-threatening, hands visible, posture open, voice carrying the warmth of a concerned father, rather than an intimidating billionaire. My dear, he began in Yoruba, the language shifting something in both of them, making the conversation feel intimate rather than transactional. I'm not here to judge your marriage, tell you what to do, or play hero in your story. But I need you to understand something with complete clarity. You and your baby are in serious medical danger. Not next month. Not next week. Right now, this moment, your life is hanging by threads thinner than your husband's patience. Damilola's hands moved instinctively to her belly, that universal protective gesture every mother knows in her bones. But sir, her voice came out small, defeated. What if he's right? What if I really am just too much trouble, too expensive, too... Chief Adeleke leaned forward, and his next words would replay in her mind for years like a song she couldn't forget. My wife Folak died, asking herself those exact questions, apologizing for bleeding too much, for costing too much, for being too much trouble. I held her hand while she died believing she was the problem. Don't you dare let history repeat itself in my hospital. 5 days crawled by like wounded animals. Damilola received round-the-clock care, IV nutrition, blood transfusions, constant fetal monitoring, while Segun's calls evolved from demanding to pleading to threatening to eerily silent. Chief Adeleke's legal team, led by a senior advocate who'd made her name destroying abusive husbands in court, had filed a restraining order so comprehensive and ironclad it arrived at Segun's office via court bailiff, humiliating him in front of colleagues who suddenly remembered urgent meetings elsewhere. Turns out money and connections meant absolutely nothing when you're facing down Nigeria's third richest man, his battalion of senior advocates, and the full weight of documentary evidence, including hospital CCTV footage that went viral on Lagos Twitter within hours. The city's gossip mills worked overtime. You hear about that man we beat him bell wife for St. Nicholas? Dim say, Chief Adeleke himself interveno. The man don finish. On the 6th morning, Chief Adeleke returned to Damilola's suite carrying a leather portfolio that looked expensive enough to pay school fees and an expression that mixed hope with apprehension. I've been building something, he began without preamble, settling into the chair that had become his unofficial spot during their daily conversations. A maternal health foundation, completely free prenatal care, nutrition programs, counseling services, legal aid, everything vulnerable mothers across Lagos need but can't afford. I've been searching for the right person to run it, someone who understands suffering intimately but hasn't let it destroy their capacity for compassion, someone who's survived hell and still wants to pull others out. He paused, studying her face with an intensity that felt like being truly seen for the first time in years. I've done extensive research, Damilola. I know you were an exceptional English teacher at Queen's College before marriage. I know you volunteered at Matape Cole Motherless Babies Home every Saturday. I know you've been systematically erased by a man who feared your light. I'm offering you the position of executive director, a fully furnished 3-bedroom apartment in Ikoyi, a salary that honors your worth, not your desperation, and complete support until you deliver safely and far beyond. Damilola stared at the silver-haired stranger who spoke to her like she was valuable, like she mattered beyond her utility, like she was more than the useless, burdensome, expensive disappointment Segun's words had convinced her she'd become over months of psychological erosion. Sir, Chief, why? The question emerged broken, disbelieving. Why would you do all this for someone you don't even know? I'm nobody, I'm just... You're not nobody, Chief Adeleke interrupted gently but firmly. And I do know you. I know you because I failed someone exactly like you 20 years ago. His eyes grew distant, seeing ghosts that never stopped haunting. I was a young doctor, brilliant and ambitious, too busy building my career to notice my wife Folak's pregnancy complications. too proud to admit I'd been neglecting what mattered most. She died in my arms at 31 years old, calling my name, and his voice fractured like old glass. I promised her dying body that no woman would ever suffer that way again if I had power to prevent it. I can't bring Folklore back, but I can make sure you live. Let me help you, Damilola. Not as charity, not as pity, as redemption for the man I failed to be when it mattered most. That night, sleep refused to come. Damilola lay in darkness, pierced only by the soft green glow of medical monitors, her baby doing gymnastics inside her, as if sensing the life-altering decision being weighed in the space between her mother's heartbeats. Stay with familiar pain or leap into salvation that felt too good to be real. Her phone buzzed at 11:47 p.m. with a message from her mother in Ibadan, the notification lighting up like an accusation. Damilola, your husband called me crying real tears. He says rich people are filling your head with nonsense. Marriage is suffering, my daughter. We all endure. Your father beat me plenty times. See me now, still standing, still married. Stop this foolishness and come home to your husband before you destroy your life with pride. What will people say? The words that once would have guilted her into submission now felt hollow, like echoes from a prison cell she'd mistaken for home, for duty, for love. She thought about the version of herself who used to stand confidently in front of Form 3 students, teaching them Wol Soyinka and Chimamanda Adichie, telling them they could be anything, do anything, dream bigger than their circumstances or their father's expectations. When exactly had she stopped believing that promise applied to her own life? When did Segun's voice become louder than her own inner knowing? She remembered their courtship with the painful clarity of someone looking at old photographs. How charming he'd been initially, how he'd loved her intelligence and ambition right up until their traditional wedding. And then suddenly, overnight, that same confidence became disrespect. Her teaching salary became, my money you're wasting. Her pregnancy became, the trap you set to tie me down. The transformation had been so gradual, so insidious, like slowly boiling water that doesn't realize it's cooking until it's too late to jump out. As pink-orange dawn broke over Lagos, painting Victoria Island's skyline in shades of hope and new beginnings, Damilola made her choice with the certainty of someone who'd finally stopped negotiating with her own worth. She called Chief Adeleke's personal line and spoke 4 words that felt like resurrection, like breaking surface after drowning, like the first breath after forgetting how to breathe. I accept your offer. Somewhere across the sprawling city, in a lonely Surulere apartment that used to feel like home before it became a crime scene, Segun woke up hungover and bitter, still absolutely convinced his wife would eventually come crawling back, because what real choice did she have? No job, no money, no support system, a baby coming. She'd be back begging within a week, and then he'd forgive her but make sure she understood the cost of embarrassing him publicly. He didn't yet understand that he'd slapped away his last chance the moment his hand connected with her face in that hospital lobby. Some mistakes, once made, become permanent. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt even with oceans of tears. 6 months later, Damilola Okafor, she'd legally reclaimed her maiden name in a courtroom ceremony that felt like exorcism, stood in the gleaming glass offices of the Olumide Adeleke Maternal Health Foundation, holding her 3-month-old daughter Inioluwa Grace, whose name meant God's wealth in Yoruba. The baby was gloriously healthy, chubby-cheeked with curious bright eyes that held none of her mother's traumatic past, just innocent wonder at ceiling fans and visitors' faces. Damilola herself had transformed so completely that old acquaintances literally walked past her on the street without recognition. She'd gained healthy weight, her skin glowed with proper nutrition and peace of mind. Her natural hair was styled in elegant braids instead of hidden under scarves from Segun's modesty requirements. And most striking of all, she moved through the world with her shoulders back and head high, no longer constantly bracing for verbal or physical impact. The foundation's work was healing her in ways individual therapy couldn't fully reach. Every vulnerable pregnant woman they helped felt like retroactively saving herself. Every abusive husband they reported to authorities felt like justice for that slap that changed everything. Every baby delivered healthy, despite the odds felt like proof that suffering didn't have to be permanent. They'd already provided free comprehensive prenatal care to over 340 women across Lagos, from Makoko waterfront slums to Ajagunle's crowded tenements. Chief Adeleke had become the father figure she'd never had, patiently teaching her about business management and nonprofit operations, introducing her to influential philanthropists and government health officials, ensuring she had every resource and connection to build something extraordinary that would outlive them both. "You remind me so much of Folek," he told her one evening, voice thick with emotion, tears gathering in his wise old eyes. "Same fire burning inside, same compassion that refuses to die despite the world's cruelty. You're the daughter we prayed for, but God gave us a different way." But transformation, Damilola learned through sleepless nights and therapy sessions, wasn't just highlight reels and foundation galas. It was also the 3 a.m. panic attacks when she jolted awake, reaching desperately for Eniolua to confirm she was real and breathing, not just another cruel dream, before waking back in Segun's apartment with his hands around her throat. It was seeing women in her foundation's waiting room who looked exactly like her old self, dead-eyed, flinching at loud voices, making elaborate excuses for husbands who didn't mean it and would definitely change this time, and fighting the urge to shake them awake while knowing you absolutely cannot save people who aren't ready to save themselves, who haven't hit their own personal rock bottom yet. Growth, she realized with hard-won wisdom, was learning to forgive yourself for how long it took to leave, for the warning signs you ignored, for believing someone's potential instead of accepting their consistent behavior. It happened on a humid Tuesday afternoon in October, when rain clouds gathered threateningly over Lagos but refused to actually rain, leaving the entire city suspended in sticky, irritable anticipation. Damilola was reviewing funding proposals from international NGOs in her corner office overlooking the Segun skyline when her secretary Jennifer's nervous voice crackled through the intercom with unusual hesitation. "Ma, I'm so sorry to disturb you, but there's a man in reception insisting, actually, practically begging to see you. He says he's your husband." The word hung in the air like smoke from a dead fire. Husband, as if marriage was a permanent identity rather than a daily choice. A choice Segun had destroyed with his fists and systematic cruelty. A choice she'd unmade in family court 3 months ago. She could have, probably should have, called security to escort him off the premises immediately. Maybe even file a police report for violating the restraining order that was still technically active. But curiosity, or perhaps the deep human need for closure, made her take a breath and say, "Give me 5 minutes, then send him in. And Jennifer, stay close with security on speed dial." The man who entered her office barely resembled the Segun she'd known. His designer clothes were gone, replaced by a wrinkled shirt that needed ironing and faded jeans that had seen better years. His face was gaunt, almost skeletal, with bloodshot eyes suggesting either crying or drinking or both. His entire posture screamed defeat, shoulders hunched, hands fidgeting, eyes unable to hold contact for more than seconds. He looked like a man who'd lost everything, and only now, far too late, finally understood what everything actually meant. "Dami," he started, voice cracking on the nickname he used to wield like a weapon or a pet name depending on his mood. "Please, just give me 5 minutes to explain." "Explain what exactly?" She stood slowly, deliberately, her voice carrying none of the fear or desperation he remembered and probably expected. Baby Eniolua slept peacefully in the designer bassinet, beside her mahogany desk, a living, breathing reminder of everything she'd survived, everything she'd almost lost, everything she'd become. "Explain the 3 years of daily insults? The times you made me literally beg for money to buy food while you bought drinks for your friends? The night you choked me unconscious because dinner was too salty? The slap that nearly killed your daughter?" Segun dropped to his knees, actually collapsed to the polished floor like tragic heroes in the Nollywood films he used to mock as unrealistic, and the performance of remorse began. "I was wrong. I was sick in my head. I was proud and stupid. I've been attending therapy now. I've really changed. Dami, please. People are mocking me everywhere I go. My own family has disowned me. I lost my banking job. I'm living in a single room in Bariga. His confession poured out in desperate rivers. But Damilola, older and infinitely wiser now, heard clearly what he didn't actually say. I'm sorry my life got hard. I'm sorry I'm suffering now. I'm sorry people think badly of me. Not, I'm sorry for what I did to you. I'm sorry for the pain I caused. I'm sorry for stealing years of your life. But was this really the final chapter of Segun's story? Had karma finished teaching its brutal lessons? Or was there one more twist waiting in the wings? As he knelt there on her office floor performing remorse like a well-rehearsed audition, Damilola felt something fundamental shift inside her. Not forgiveness in the way he wanted, not even pity despite his obvious suffering, but rather a crystalline clarity that some people only love you when they need something from you, only value you when you're no longer accessible, only claim they've changed when consequences finally catch their actions and pin them to the ground. His transformation wasn't spiritual, it was circumstantial. Stand up, Segun. Her voice was calm, almost gentle, which somehow made what came next cut deeper than any scream could. I forgive you, not because you've earned it or deserve it, but because carrying anger and hatred for you would mean giving you continued space in my life and headspace you absolutely no longer deserve. Forgiveness is for me, not for you. It's me releasing poison I've been drinking hoping you'd feel sick. She walked to her floor-to-ceiling windows, deliberately turning her back to him, watching Lagos hustle 5 stories below. Yellow danfos weaving through traffic, street hawkers balancing impossible loads, millions of people surviving, and some even thriving. People who'd learned that survival and thriving weren't remotely the same thing. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation, Segun. It doesn't mean I trust you. And it certainly doesn't mean I'm coming back or giving you another chance to destroy me. She turned to face him then, and he saw it clearly for perhaps the first time. Saw that the woman he'd systematically tried to break had instead broken free and rebuilt herself into something his limited imagination and controlling nature could never diminish again. You taught me the most valuable lesson of my life, actually. You taught me that I'd rather be completely alone than constantly disrespected. Rather be poor than abused. Rather start from absolute zero than stay stuck in familiar hell. Security appeared at her door without being summoned. Jennifer had wisely alerted them when Segun's voice started rising. As they moved to escort him out, he erupted, "You'll regret this. You think that old man will take care of you forever? You think you're special? You'll come begging back to me within a year, you'll see. Nobody else will want a single mother." But his threats and curses evaporated into the air-conditioned office silence, powerless as all bullies eventually become when their victims finally stop fearing them and start pitying them instead. But fate had one final surprise waiting in the wings of this story, one last gift that would cement Damilola's transformation from victim to victor, from survivor to thriver. 4 months after Segun's failed reconciliation performance, Chief Olumide Adeleke called her to his personal study in his massive Ikoyi mansion, a room lined floor to ceiling with medical journals, family photographs, and Folik's favorite quotes hand-painted on the walls. "I've been meaning to discuss something important with you for weeks," he began, then paused with uncharacteristic nervousness for a man worth several billion naira. "My health isn't what it used to be. 70 is approaching faster than I'd prefer, and my doctors keep using annoying words like slow down and delegate. So I've been thinking seriously about legacy, not the money kind, but the purpose kind, the kind that outlives our bodies." He slid a leather document folder across his antique mahogany desk, and Damilola's hands trembled visibly as she read the legal papers inside, having to reread certain sections multiple times, because they seemed too impossibly generous to be real. Chief Adeleke was making her co-director and 50% stakeholder of his entire Adeleke healthcare group, with full autonomous authority over the maternal health division and a compensation package that made her old teaching salary look like pocket change. More stunning than the money, he was naming her as a primary beneficiary in his will, ensuring the foundation she'd built would continue operating long after he was gone. guaranteed funding for at least 50 years. "You're not just my employee, Damilola," he said with fatherly pride shining in his aged eyes that had seen too much loss and were now witnessing redemption. "You're my legacy. The daughter Folek and I prayed and cried for, but God gave us through tragedy instead of biology. Say yes and let's change Nigeria's maternal mortality statistics together. Say yes and make sure no woman dies the way Folek died, alone, afraid, and convinced she was the problem." Damilola said yes through tears of gratitude and disbelief, thinking about the impossible journey from bleeding on hospital floors to sitting in executive suites, from victim to voice, from broken woman to foundation director, from someone who'd forgotten her own worth to someone actively teaching thousands of women to remember theirs. She learned viscerally that sometimes life's absolute worst moments are actually doorways to your best chapters, if you're brave enough to walk through instead of staying stuck in familiar suffering. That rock bottom isn't the end. It's simply the foundation for rebuilding something better. That the people who hurt you most often inadvertently lead you exactly where you needed to go all along. As she left Chief Adeleke's home that golden evening, baby Inyalua cooing contentedly in her arms, she whispered a prayer of genuine gratitude for the slap that woke her up, the stranger who became her father, and the courage to choose herself when literally everyone said she shouldn't. The moral was simple but life-changing. Your value and worth are not determined by those who fail to see it, and sometimes the absolute worst thing that ever happened to you turns out to be the first step toward your best, most authentic life. You just have to be brave enough to walk away from what's killing you and toward what's calling you. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next inspiring African tale. Your support keeps these stories alive. Have you ever experienced a moment that seemed like your lowest point, but turned out to be your greatest breakthrough? Share your story in the comments below. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today to find their own courage.